Hello there, Riderflex Nation. Steve Urban here with more career advice and job interviewing tips for you. And as a quick reminder, if you enjoy our podcast, please remember to subscribe to our channel and like the episodes. And on today's podcast, key content that I look for when reviewing your resume and your LinkedIn profile. And by the way, I'm looking for this information quickly. I want to be able to grab it super fast, and it needs to be easily identifiable, etc. So 8 tips. I don't want your resume or your profile to get passed on because I can't find this information quickly. And that applies to all recruiters who are probably glancing at your profile. So 8 tips, 8 key things when I'm looking at your resume or your LinkedIn profile. Number 1, I want to talk about the title, okay, the position you held. Yes, everybody has the title of the position that they held listed on their resume or profile or LinkedIn profile, but I want to just chat about that for a second. 2 things. First, if you worked for a startup or a super small company and your title could be debated based on what you really had responsibility for, I think you should tweak your title. I think you should take the liberty of massaging or tweaking your title to something that's fair for your profile. I'm not encouraging you to lie, but if you really acted as the operations manager, but they had a title in this startup called chief office helper or whatever, I would tweak your title, I think, in certain situations. Not asking you to lie, but I do think it's fair to tweak your title in certain situations, especially with the startup. The other thing with your title is this. If you were in a consulting role or an interim role or a contractor role, I think you should put that in parentheses next to your title, especially if it was a short-term job stay. If you were only there for 6 months or a year or less, and you were the acting VP of sales, you should put VP of sales, parentheses, interim consultant or contractor or something that identifies very quickly in the title why it was a short stay. So those are my key tips around the title of the positions that you've held on your resume. Number 2, I want to look to see who you reported to. I'm constantly trying to figure out who you reported to, and that varies based on the size of the company, right? In a small company, you might be the director of marketing. Now, in a normal situation, a director would roll up to a VP, but if it's a small company, maybe the director of marketing rolled right to the CEO. You need to clarify that in your profile, on your resume and LinkedIn profile. Clarify that. I'm always looking to see who you reported to. So that's point number 2. Number 3, I'm quickly trying to figure out what your industry experience is. Keep in mind, all the recruiters, just because you list the company name, we don't know what industry it is. Okay, I'll give you a perfect example. When I'm looking at a LinkedIn profile, if you don't tell me what the industry was somewhere in the detail of that job or somewhere in the summary real quick of your profile, then I have to click on the company icon and then I have to go to another page and try to figure out what the industry is. Anything you can do on your resume or your LinkedIn profile that quickly and easily identifies the industry that company was in, please do it. That's critical. Frustrating for me to have to dig and find that. Number 4, product experience. I'm quickly trying to identify what experience do you have around certain products if it was, in fact, a product company. So if it was, electronics, I want to be able to see that. I want to be able to quickly identify that you have experience in televisions and that the industry was, consumer goods or whatever. So product experience, anything you can do to highlight what types of product experience you have, I'm looking for that. Number 5, I'm trying to figure out the size of the company. I want to know what size of companies you've worked for. Have you worked for small, medium, Fortune 500 startups? So what I do is when I look at your profile, I'm thinking, okay, they worked for ABC Company. I don't know who ABC Company is. So now let me figure out how big ABC Company was and roughly how many people worked there. If you can put that on your profile and it's not super private information, I would. because I'm looking to see what experience levels you have for different size companies. Keep that in mind. Number 6, I'm quickly trying to figure out how much revenue you are responsible for if, in fact, your job is tied to revenue. This really applies to sales, marketing, product people, things like that, production, etc. I want to know what's the volume, whether it's units or dollars or both. I want to know how much responsibility you had there when it comes to units and dollars. So if you can share that information, please do. If you were the VP of sales and you were over $100 million of responsibility, you need to make sure you list that. Number 7, people responsibility. I want to know. I'm quickly trying to figure out how many people were you supervising? How many direct reports did you have? And maybe how many indirect reports? What I mean by that is, if you're a VP of sales, you probably had, 4 or 5 sales managers, and then maybe those managers had associates under them. So you say, hey, I had 5 direct reports, 5 sales managers, and then indirectly I was over 120 people. So make sure you list that. I'm always trying to figure out what type of responsibility you had with regards to supervising people. And number 8, my final point on resumes and LinkedIn profiles. I want to challenge you to do this. Again, using the VP of sales model, for example, let's say it's VP of sales for a software company. If you haven't gone into Indeed or LinkedIn or Monster or some other job board and done a search for a job that's similar to yours, I suggest you do that if you haven't done that in a while. Pull up several recent postings of companies to see what companies are asking for in the job requirements, in the candidate requirements for the job. See what they're posting, see what they're asking for. Look at those bullet points, look at the verbiage, look at the buzzwords, and if you aren't using those in your own resume or your LinkedIn profile, please do, because that will help you get identified and selected much faster. And there is your Riderflex tip of the day. We truly hope you find our material helpful and entertaining. And while our podcast can be heard across most platforms, including iTunes, Google Play, Spotify, YouTube, and SoundCloud, you can become a supporter of this podcast by visiting our show on the platform Anchor FM. That's anchor.fm/Riderflex. You can also send us your questions or suggested topics for future episodes to the email address podcast@riderflex.com, or drop us a voicemail at 888-964-5876, extension 710. Visit riderflex.com to learn more about us. Thanks so much for listening, folks, and have a great day.